This is the world of sex, where we talk about everything they say you can't. It's time to put the kids to bed and listen to every word that's said. So get your glass of wine and let's talk about sex.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's performance is about to begin.
Hey everybody, welcome to the world of sex. And we have a return guest. Well, she wasn't on here before, but she was on Speaking Freedom TV. We have Karine. How are you doing?
Woo! I'm good. Let's talk about sex, baby. I know. Probably... I think we're not allowed to sing those things without like a license, but we'll just.
I think we can sing them. We can't play them.
I don't know. I think you can't even sing them. It's crazy.
Because you can sing, because you could be doing a remake of it.
Shh. All right. I'm gonna go with that. We're gonna go with that.
So, here on the world of sex, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, my name is Karine Ringenberg, and I am turning off my sounds here because they're beeping in the background. So hang on 1 second. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Because nobody wants to hear my messenger go off like a million times. Anyways, I am Karine Bedard. I'm the sex positive relationship designer. And I have a podcast called Breaking Free Authentically. And my very first episode of that show is called, you ready for it?
Hold on.
Drum roll.
Oh, and it's not even gonna play.
Never mind. We tried. Okay, so drum roll. Bible school graduate turned Playboy enthusiast.
Ooh.
So there you go. There's a little setup for you. But yeah, very short story because you can listen to the other episode if you want more of my in-depth story.
Yes.
Because I do go into it, just kind of the religious programming. And I didn't consider myself religious because I was fundamentalist evangelical Christian, like I knew that I had the right faith. I wasn't religious. I had a relationship with Christ,
right.
not it wasn't a religion. I wasn't like those religious people. So that was my upbringing. And no sex before marriage. I was a virgin when I got married at 22, and so was my husband, so all that good stuff. And I couldn't wait to get married, to have sex. And yeah, you don't realize what you're not taught, and you don't realize what that may or may not look like.
Right. Sex is a very interesting thing to go into. And I mean, everybody goes into it initially and they don't know anything. However, the older you are, the more intimidating that can be, because you don't know. Well, in your case, your partner, you knew that he was a virgin as well. But in most people's cases, they don't know what the other person is doing. So, when did you start having sex?
On my wedding night.
Oh, on your wedding night. And what was the most surprising thing that you learned when you started having sex?
Well, funny story.
I want to hear it.
Okay, so on our wedding night, I mean, like, I couldn't wait. I was like, I have waited 22 years for this. And when we got to the hotel, it was late, right? We got to the motel. I'm going to say motel because that's important, because the door opened to the outside.
Okay.
Okay. And that's a good thing. Okay. Right. So here I am standing in the bathroom in my lingerie, waiting for my new husband to fill the hot tub, because we had never seen each other naked yet, right? So I've got my lingerie on. I'm like nervous as all get out.
I bet.
Here he is. It was like a corner jacuzzi tub. So he's filling it or whatever. And I hear it's taking a long time. And I'm like, I hear the door opening and closing. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is happening here? And I'm like, are you almost ready? Because I can hear the jets, and then they weren't going. And I was like, what? Okay, so he had put bubble bath in there. Okay, not just, couple drops.
The whole thing.
It was like a champagne bottle size, and he put the whole freaking neck in there. There was bubbles. Like, he was taking the garbage can and scooping bubbles and throwing it outside the door. So he kept like opening and closing the door. And meanwhile, I'm like, it's like there's this slatted door and I'm on the other side going, what is happening? And I'm getting more and more nervous because I'm like,
you don't know what's going on.
The bubbles were great because he got in first, he closed his eyes, and then I got in, and then we could, explore each other under the bubbles. God. This is how like virgin I was, right? So, and then we were in there for a while, but it was pretty hot and it was late and it had been a long day or whatever. And I got a headache from the heat and being in the water too long, kind of. And so we get out or whatever, and he like starts tucking me in. And I was like, wait, what's happening here? He's like, well, you have a headache or whatever. And he's being all sweet. I was like, oh no, hold on. Hold on. I have waited 22 years for this moment.
This headache will be okay.
I am not going to bed before I have sex. Like, that is just not happening. And he's like, oh, okay, are you sure? And so that was the intro to my first time. And yeah.
Was it better than you expected? Like, how was it coming in to a marriage, a virgin? Of course, you probably don't have anything else to weigh it on. But how was it for you, like, experience-wise? Was it everything that you imagined? Did it grow into everything you imagined? How did it start out for you?
Okay. I remember he had said something about oral sex before, and I was like, that's not okay. That's not allowed, and like, what? And he's like, of course it's allowed. Like, we're married, and if we're married, then it'll be allowed. And I was like, well, I had to think about that one for a little bit. And so he's like, well, I would really like to try that, on you or whatever. And I was like, so finally on the wedding night, I was like, okay, you can try that, because I couldn't even imagine that someone would want to do that. Or like, I was like, what? Okay. So I let him go down on me, and I was like, oh, well, this isn't so bad. I was like, oh, I could get used to this. I think I like this. So that was a surprising thing that I had never considered or thought of. And so that was nice. And I remember he was very gentle and kind of whatever. And I remember we had sex many times that night, because the next morning I was so swollen. And I was like, I'm burning. Like, I can hardly move. And it felt raw, but it wasn't. And I was like, what do I do? And so we ended up buying antibiotic ointment with like the pain stuff, and I was like, I don't even know if I can put this up in my, I don't know if that is something that, and I hear it. I have no idea who to ask or what to do. This was before cell phones. I mean, this was like 25 years ago. I didn't have a cell phone. There was hardly the internet, you know?
They were just starting. It would definitely.
It was like AOL dial-up, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, so like, and we had never watched porn or anything like that. Like, I did not know. I'd never asked anybody, oh, so if you get swollen there, what do you put on? No, I had no idea. So, yeah, it was an interesting first day. I had trouble walking. But I mean, it was fun. I was excited, and I was so happy to be a new wife. And, it was just like
the excitement part of it.
Yeah, I was in my own little world. I mean, it got better all the time, because I was very aware of my body, let's just say, even though shame tried to stop me.
So did you masturbate before you got married?
Oh, yeah, since I was 4.
So how did you get on, like, what happened at 4 that made you start masturbating? Like, how did that happen?
I have no idea when I started. I just remember this one incident where I got in trouble for it. Like, big trouble. And so that is imprinted in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just being like, it was very innocent. I just felt nice. Like I was 4. Like I just,
Right. And it feels good if you
yeah,
touch
I
it.
was like, oh, this feels nice. And this is great, you know, and, yeah. So I learned very quickly that that was wrong and that I had to hide that now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so there was always guilt attached to it and this feeling like, why can't I stop? And why do I struggle so much with this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was rough. So but it was hard to hide too because I liked using a blanket. So my mom would find it under the bed and she would identify whether I had used it or not.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I would get in trouble still. I couldn't quite hide it because of my method.
The methodology of
Yeah, and still to this day, because I wasn't, you know, the idea like touching yourself is wrong, right? I think that's probably why I used a blanket subconsciously. Um, and still to this day, I can barely get myself off with my hand, with my finger,
So do
because
you use toys?
I'll use toys or a blanket or a towel sometimes, but there's definitely something about like a blanket or something touching my thighs and that whole area that's like always
Or thing?
gives me a lot of pleasure just because I don't know, it's just that I guess it's just the memories of that feeling because I created not a scenario in my mind, but just a very sensual. I was very sensitive in my body and I could conjure up sensations in my body. And so I was very good at that. I mean, if I fantasized, I always fantasized about a faceless husband.
Mm-hmm.
It was always a husband. It was never like a boyfriend or anything. It was always like if I was married, I probably
Right.
reenacted my honeymoon many, many, many times.
Right.
That was
So
my porn.
my next question is, what is your wildest fantasy?
Oh boy, what's my wildest fantasy? Do you know who you're talking to?
Yeah, I want to hear it. That's exactly why I'm glad
All
that we
right.
asked.
All right. So there's nothing off limits here.
Nothing off limits.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I have been in the lifestyle for a while. Those who don't know what that is also considered swinger, an open relationship. I'm also polyamorous. So I'm ethically non-monogamous, and this is one of the things that I do with clients is I normalize ethical non-monogamy. My podcast is about normalizing ethical non-monogamy and other not just ethical non-monogamy. Like I think monogamy is great. I just want you to choose it. Like don't
Right.
just default to it. And I think that part of my process is becoming sex positive, leaving my faith and becoming sex positive. Again, you'll hear that story in the other podcast. But sex positivity set me free and just being comfortable and not judging myself or others for their choices in relationships or their sexual choices or sexual preferences. And so I started to learn that everything was okay and that I was allowed to fantasize or I was allowed to get excited about what I would maybe want to try. And I was allowed to change my mind and I was allowed to, you know, like anything. So a lot of women in the lifestyle are bi and I am not. So it was always a bit of a different situation. So a lot of girls coming on to me and I was like, oh, I felt really bad for a while. I felt like I didn't belong.
Listen,
Because
as a person that is kind of exploring lifestyle and not like I find women attractive but I've never been with a woman before. I really don't care to be with one, but I would probably be willing to be a pillow princess, but it would have to be the right person that I would be like, okay, you could just have your way with me. Okay. But it's definitely a strange and awkward. Okay, my other thing that makes it strange and awkward is that I can't meet somebody and automatically want to have sex with them. It has to be some type of extra with it. So it does definitely make it a little bit more uncomfortable being in those environments because it's like, damn, am I doing it wrong? Am I doing this wrong? Because I have to reject or turn away or like I'm not attracted to everyone. Everyone isn't attractive to me. So
well,
I definitely
That's normal. I mean, when you're monogamous, you're the same way. So why would it be
Mhm.
different if you were non-monogamous? Like that's what people don't understand. It's like I might be an ethical slut, but that doesn't mean that just because I sleep with other people that I'm gonna sleep with you.
Right.
That's just like that doesn't make any sense. It's like, oh, because before I was married, I wanted to be married and I was willing to date men that I would date or marry anybody.
Just anybody.
Like
But a
that
lot of
doesn't,
people do. A lot of people,
yeah.
they just jump in so that they can say that they did. I mean, of course, normally there is some type of wooing or some manipulation that makes you feel comfortable with marrying a perfect stranger. But it's definitely a lot different.
Well, I'd say probably a lot of time that's born out of trauma and feeling
Mm-hmm.
like, probably some love bombing and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And the
Um,
fear of religion and all of that plays
yeah, I
into how
mean, there's a
quickly
lot
you.
of things. But in terms of like the lifestyle, it's like people can make their wishes known, but I definitely get to say no. And I'm not one to just jump in bed with just anybody either because I'm a sapiosexual, which
Mm-hmm.
means I am an intellectual and I need to use my brain. Demisexual means
Mm-hmm.
that you need to have a connection first. And so I'm not bisexual, but I'm demisexual.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, my rule now, and I didn't always have this rule, like I figured it out along the way because like when I first got into swinging, I was like, oh man, I have never done this. I've never, sowed my wild oats, right? I was a good girl and then I got married at 22. And then, so when I finally started having sex with other people, I was like, whoa. And I went a little crazy, which was fine, no judgment.
Right.
But I did learn what I liked and what I didn't like and what experiences I liked more. And if I could have a conversation with them, I enjoyed it more. Um, if I was attracted to them, I enjoyed it even more. And I
Right.
realized that I'm not attracted to a lot of people. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. And it's probably my ex was a very tall, handsome guy. So I had like
So what was
good
the
looking guy. So, okay, so real quick, you, so my quick rules are now if I can't have a conversation with you, if I can't cuddle with you, then I'm probably not going to have sex with you.
and that's good because you are giving me some more realistic guidelines about do's and don'ts if I was to travel sexually down the path of lifestyle versus
Mhm.
just being a voyeur at this moment. A voyeur
Yeah,
is somebody that just watches. I just want to watch
exactly.
pretty much at this point. And I think it's more because I'm just getting introduced to lifestyle
Yeah.
and just well, I would like to get married again, and if I ever done any type of swinging for it to be like a partner approved type of thing where he kind of manages and not manages like pimp me out, but just like watch over me and make sure that I'm protected, that I'm like what I believe a man's role is to make sure that you're protected, provided for, that you have no worries when it comes to this. So that is my mindset. Now, lately, kind of recently, I've been toying with the ideal of being a unicorn
Mm-hmm.
and like helping other people. I just don't know if I am able to do that. Like, I'm because, well, the problem is I've been celibate for 7 years.
Mm.
So trying to get back into the rodeo in general is a lot because now I'm trying to, I may be putting too much logic on my selection because it has to make sense. Like I didn't wait 7 years. It is just
No. And here's the thing, there's zero shame in that. And I want to switch your wording a little bit, if I may.
uh-huh.
You said, I want to maybe be a unicorn because then I could help people that way. It is not about helping other people.
It's about me.
It's about you. It's got to
Okay.
be about you first. It has to. Like if you feel good about it, then explore it. If you don't know if you feel good about it, maybe explore it, but don't do it for someone else. Like, don't do it to please someone else or because another couple's looking and, oh, well, because I learned the hard way that you never take one for the team. Okay.
Right,
You never take
right.
one for the team. Sometimes taking one for the team, it might look different to different people, but like, if you're not attracted to someone, you're not going to have like the sexual chemistry necessarily. And there's not a lot of people that kind of get my juices flowing. Let's just say. But if I have a good conversation with someone and I'm able to flirt with them, and to me it's their smile and the eyes. If I can connect that way, and there's like we can get some banter going, and then I'm actually perfectly happy to just keep it at that, because that's very fulfilling to me. But maybe we can go farther. Now here's another thing that I do. So my quote unquote rules are very different when I'm playing with my partner. And we like to have threesomes. I like two guys. Like that's my MFM. So that's my thing. And he really likes that too. He likes watching me with others and everything. And in that case, one of my favorite things is like if we're at a club or whatever, and there's people lurking, people as in men lurking. And there's strict rules most of the time. It depends what club you're at, but some clubs they uphold it better. But no means no, and if someone touches you without you being asked or whatever, they like get kicked out right away. So sometimes they kind of hover close by, but they're not touching or whatever. And sometimes it's like, okay, dude, back off, Right. But you can make sure that you're like in a private room if you don't want that or whatever. So anyways, we are exhibitionists. We like people watching us, and we like putting on a little bit of a show, and we're very passionate together. So we like putting on that kind of a show because it's not just about the sex for us. It's really a good energy connection. It's really fun. So, but there's a lot of people that want to join in. And so sometimes people join in. Well, I prefer in that setting, I often prefer a black man. It's just, I just do. And there's something really fun about it. And I often am like, you pick someone. Like you pick who you want to watch. Fuck me or whatever.
But I think that is good because he feels that he's included and has maybe not control, but a little bit of say so. And it shouldn't be empowering to him in that manner.
Yeah. And in that case, he really likes that. And but again, it's willing submission on my part, like I'm like, no, I often don't look at the other guys. Now, sometimes I'll look around and I'll be like, that one, I'm attracted to that one. And so he'll try to get them over or whatever. And he's like, hey, you want to join in?
Question.
And I was like, you tell him what to do.
So, how was the transition into lifestyle? But before that, how does he go about approaching the guys that you kind of like and want him to go and attract for you? Because when you say that, that's how I think when it comes to the lifestyle, like having my husband be that person that kind of makes sure that, because it's a safety net for your husband to be involved.
Yeah, well, and see, I don't see it that way. And I think it's important. And this is kind of what my course is about. And it's not that, and see, my boyfriend definitely feels that way. Like he needs to be there to protect me and keep me safe, whatever. And that's his programming. And I'm trying to help him kind of undo that programming a bit because, yes, I want to be safe, but this world is designed where women are kind of running the show. Women are kind of in charge, and the men who aren't respectful, they get booted out. I mean, you don't let them get away with stuff.
It's not as unsafe as one would imagine.
Oh gosh, no, it's not. So if you're like a single woman or whatever, like you're not going to get approached all that often. If you're like I
want to go to a swingers club, but I'm scared.
Where are you located again?
Atlanta.
All right.
Where are you at?
I'm near Toronto. So I host events all the time. So if you come up to Toronto, I'll show you the thing.
Look, I've been trying to come to Canada for a while now.
All right. Well, you can come in now. You can come.
Okay.
So I got you, girl. You come. And I'll show you a good time. So
oh Lord.
I do have friends in Georgia too. I have great friends in Georgia too. So like I said, if I'm heading down that way, I'll have to look you up because so the fun thing is I connect with guys. Like I said yesterday, remember all my friends were guys growing up. So like that's who I get along with so easily, and I can flirt with them and hang out, whatever, and it's pretty easy. So I sometimes will play alone. Usually if I'm with my boyfriend, we will play together at a club or just the two of us, because we don't get to see each other all the time. But like when we're separate, when we're apart, we have other partners that we'll play with or have people over. And it's called playing. I don't know if everybody knows that right now, but like in our world, it's called play. Sex is play, and it should be play, and that's
Right.
what makes
In
it a
all
lot of
worlds, yeah.
yeah, it
So
makes it fun.
how did you transition from being spirit, well, I want to say religious, but being attached to religion,
Yeah.
um
So it was a big
to go ahead.
to this world. It was a big undoing. So I had to undo that programming, the religious programming. And then once I got to the point where I was like sex positive and sort of adopted that, then I was like at the point where I didn't judge other people for that. And then I started listening to podcasts and things about swingers and stuff. And I was like, oh, I don't think I could ever do that. And, we'd talk about it or whatever. And he's like, I don't think I could ever do that. So fast forward several years, like it wasn't just an overnight process necessarily. But now like I'm separated. We kind of did our different things and had different goals in life. And so, but like with each person that you're with and every relationship, like the beauty is you can customize sort of the design that works for you, which is why
Right.
I'm a designer, right? I just think like you get to design it how you want. And the way that we want is that when we're together, like we figured out what are each other's fantasies and what. So for me, the thing that I haven't really done yet is a gangbang, which I
Okay.
think would be fun.
So that's your wildest fantasy?
I mean, nothing's really that wild anymore. It's like pretty much the one I just haven't done, right? Because like,
So okay, so what have you done out of the
oh,
things that
that's
people fantasize about?
oh God. Okay, so
Let's go.
all right, we ready? You writing this
Yes.
down? Do we have a timer? No. Okay, so I've done well many threesomes with two guys. That's my go-to. That's my favorite. Um I've been in like some bi guy situations. So it's like, MMF, and that's really fun to have like guys interacting or like have two cocks in my mouth or things like that.
Two
Uh,
at the same time?
yeah.
Oh my God, I would love to see that.
One white, one black, chocolate
I,
M&Ms.
I want to see. I gotta cut. I gotta.
You gotta come
I'm.
hang out with me,
Yeah.
girl.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, honey. I will be there eventually. I
All
don't know
right.
when, but because I want to see that.
Because this innocent looking girl ain't so
Oh.
innocent. Yeah, so and I also love like I don't know if you're familiar with DP, double penetration. So double penetration is one in the ass, one in the vagina.
So
And
okay. Do have you ever had two in your vagina at the same time?
I was
Like
just
how
getting to
does
that.
that work?
DVP. So there's different positions that work better. It depends on the shape of their cock. It depends how long. It depends who's on bottom, who's on top, or yeah,
Oh,
so
because if you lay on top of them, then one can go and then the other one is kind of
yeah,
hovering.
so sometimes if you straddle them, you get one inside who's like laying on their back, and then someone from behind can come. So
Mm-hmm.
the one from behind has to have a bit like
Longer.
usually it's like one of them is doing the moving.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it can get a little just they pop out. That's all. But that's one of my favorites is DVP.
Okay.
I really like that stretch. I love that. And I love the intimacy of two guys not being afraid to have their swords touching, as they
Right.
call it. And I think
So I call that the bird call because in one of Birdman songs, he describes that, and
yeah.
there is no visualization when he describes it in the song, but when I saw it, I was like, "That's the bird calling," because that was his thing. So
That's funny. Yeah, I call it DVP, double vaginal penetration.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is in Toronto, one of the highways is called the Don Valley Parkway, but everybody calls it the DVP. So now I can't take the DVP without thinking of DVP. And it's so funny. Like, it's just one of those stupid things. So yeah, DVP is definitely something. And of course, people are like, "What? You've done that?" I'm like, "Oh yeah."
So, but how did you get your guy to be okay with it? Like, was
He
it something that he was into?
Yeah, like he thought the idea would be great. And he has like bi curiosity as well, so that's always
That's
been fun.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and you have to find someone that you feel comfortable with and say if it doesn't, just go with anyone. But for me, like when that situation happens, it's usually when it's like um friends that like the three of us are just like buddies and we get along, we can just
Mhm.
laugh and you can just stop for a little while and have some snacks and drink and laugh and then get back to it. So it's really a play session, and
Right.
it's not a passionate session, right? Like it's just about experimenting and having
Hmm.
fun or
Hmm.
whatever. Um
Adult play dates.
yeah, and it's just really fun to just try different things, and nobody's like weirded out by stuff. Like that's the thing,
Right.
is if you can laugh and you can laugh at yourself and you can
Hmm.
just like
Hmm.
be like, "Okay, hold on. You stay there. I'm going to turn around." And then you, "Okay, try from this
Yeah,
angle."
yeah,
And,
yeah.
"Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, that works. That works." That's kind of how it goes. It's not like this like porn session that looks all perfect. So people have to realize that you can't compare to that kind of
Hmm.
thing. And it's just a lot of laughs and it's just a whole lot of fun. It's just instead of playing a card game, we're just using our body parts,
Right,
or
right.
something like
So,
that.
what are some of your other things that you've done or tried? Because you've only named two.
Okay. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, I'm a nudist too, so I mean, I like being nude and like, okay,
How did you go from being
I
afraid to
know,
be seen in your lingerie to
right?
being a nudist?
Okay, so the first step was to actually explore nudism.
Mhm.
So went on vacation to Jamaica, to a place that had a nude island, and
Mhm.
we went and explored that first. The nude island. So you get there, you have to take your clothes off or whatever, and that was sort of the first entrance, and realized, oh, like this is so normal feeling. Like once you get around people and you just start
That's
talking, like
mhm.
it doesn't feel like you don't have clothes. It's so freeing and it's so,
I
yeah.
definitely want to do a nude beach or
It's
of some
so
sort.
nice. It's so nice. And the sun on your parts feels so good. And it's so liberating. It's really awesome. So then from there, I started to like think about the lifestyle and wanted to explore some things. But one of the reasons why I wanted to is because I really wanted to um, get closeness with my partner. Like I wanted it to be something that was exciting, but we took that excitement back to each other. And you know, the idea of like group sex was really hard for me. So for me, it was like more one-on-one first. And a
Hmm.
lot of people, it has to be all together. A lot of people go into the lifestyle, a lot of women, couples go in because the woman is bi.
Hmm.
And so they want to explore that. And that was not my situation. So there's a lot of couples that the women will play um with the other woman, but she won't play with the husband or
Hmm.
something. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
like her man is
Her man.
the only man that she'll be with,
Right,
but she'll
right,
be with
right.
other women. That's a tough thing when you're in a couple situation. Like if you meet another couple and that's their situation. So it's you always want to ask what their boundaries are,
Dynamic.
what their dynamic is, and what they're here for and what they enjoy. So instead of just saying, "Oh, what are your rules?" Just think, "Oh,
Hmm.
what do you enjoy? What are you guys in this for? And what gets you off? What gets you excited? What do you like to watch?" Okay, other things that I've done. I have had threesomes with women as well. Not my favorite, of course, because
Why?
I'm not bi.
Oh, but
I
okay.
feel I'm not bi, so like I find it awkward to know what to do. Sometimes like I'm like, do I, at least when it's one woman and two guys, like there's other holes. So,
Right.
you can wait in
Nobody
your
is ever
mouth,
have to
like
sit
nobody,
idle.
yeah. But when it's two women, it's like one cock and two women.
If you're
It's
not
just
by, you're
for,
not wanting to eat no coochie, you're not wanting to do some of the
yeah,
things that
it's not the
would.
same. And like I have gone down on women and women have gone down on me. So I make a very good pillow princess because I don't mind. I
Right.
don't mind, but it doesn't get me off. So I will do it for them in certain situations if it's like natural, if it flows naturally, but I will not do it because they expect it. I will be very clear that that's not something I do. I will kiss other women sometimes, but again, I need to feel closeness to them or a connection to them. Um, and I won't do a threesome with another woman if I don't feel comfortable around them
Yeah.
or that I'm
Well,
close to them. It's just not.
that's reasonable because especially if you're not bisexual, that means you're not, it's not like you're just fantasizing with being with another woman. It's
Yeah.
just more of, the situation at hand.
Yeah.
So you definitely would need to feel closeness or connection, especially
Yeah.
with a woman, even more so than a man, because you're challenging yourself to do something that you otherwise, I mean, it's no
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily for me. And it's something fun to give to my partner and to allow him to experience too, right? So and I'm perfectly happy just walking away for a while. You have at it for a bit and then I'll come
Right.
back. No,
Take
like
a
I
break.
have no trouble with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no trouble. And that, I mean, that is nice because like my partner will go for a long time. So sometimes, you need a water break or something and
Right.
going, it's fine. But of course he feels the same way when there's two guys. It's like, okay, your turn. I'm tapping out.
Yeah.
Like
So
switch.
would you be in a poly relationship?
Yeah, I am. I have been. And I don't
How was
have
that for you?
I liked it because I have a lot of love to give, right? So, um, it's definitely something that I can handle because I, loving another person doesn't take away from the love for my partner. So and when you understand that and when you understand sort of NRE, which is new relationship energy, you understand that if you're attracted to someone or you feel connected, you want to talk to them a lot of, that's not because you don't love your partner still, it's because there's just this new energy. It's kind of the cycle of things. The hormones are going crazy with them. And so it's really important to understand these things so that you can kind of balance it. Um, some of the other things that I've done is like I've been in an orgy, I've been in
You look
foursomes,
so innocent.
I know. Some BDSM play. So I've been dommed and you know, um I have been fisted.
How does that fit?
Um
Like, do you have to do
it's
like two, like the
Well,
like
you
work
work up.
your
Yeah. You work your way up to it. You work your way up to it. It's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna shove my fist in
oh
there. Yeah. But I mean, I had three babies, so I mean,
right.
a fist is smaller than.
Hi, I'm Kaci, Dr. Kaci. Welcome to Speaking Freedom. We are happy to have you and we hope that we are able to help you in every way possible. Have a good evening.
But yes, you do have to warm it up, and some people just really like. I have a friend who's a dom, and he just loves the feel of a vagina, like his fingers in there, and it's just like something that brings him so much joy. And so he's like a lot of times the prepper. He'll just prep people and then his wife has smaller hands, so she would be the fister. But my boyfriend loves to fist me if he can. He likes to put as much in there, as big of things as he can. And you know if he's like, can I stuff you? And so there's like dildos and stuff and him, so he's had two dildos in him in there too at some point. Like he loves to just push my boundaries a little bit, kind of bring me over this edge. And he's brought me to subspace a few times. um anal anal can take you to places that you never thought you could go.
Listen, I always say that I understand why once a man has had anal sex in his rear end, that I get it because I thought that anal sex was amazing. Like, it's a different type of feeling. It's a different type of climax or high even. So I've always said, like, once you get it, I get it because it is something that you can actually crave. I almost want to say that it's understandable because I mean, I've had sex where I was actually having regular old sex and then he slipped in my ass and I was like, whoa, hey, let's do that some more.
Oh, wow. You're lucky because a lot of times, like if that happens and there's no prep, it's like can be the worst thing in the world. But
I guess my booty loose.
Yeah, if your booty's loose, if you're ready for it, it can be awesome. And there's some great techniques to loosen that up. And my boyfriend's very good at that. He has this technique, I call it the bump. I was like bump, 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 bump. So he just kind of bumps and then it just kind of opens up naturally. Once the door opens, like a garage door, just open sesame. And then you can go in, but not until then. And if I say bump anywhere, he knows that, there's that pain hasn't turned to pleasure yet. So our bodies, there's a very fine line between pain and pleasures. It's the same nerves.
Right.
And it just, your brain recognizes it as pain or pleasure, depending on like how relaxed you are.
And I think that's why I went in so easy that particular time, because I was very relaxed. It was somebody that I was very comfortable with.
Yeah.
So we was both like, wait a minute now, what happened? Because it normally like I had never experienced where it just went in on its own, but it was like, all right, now let's go.
I know. Once you're there, it's like, I mean, I have gone to like crazy subspace with anal. Like I was like, I felt like a vegetable for 2 days. Like Steve had to he had to carry me to the bath after, like, I was like Jello. I was hardly aware of what was going on. Like I needed a lot of aftercare and it took me a few days to recover. So I'm like, hold up. I can't just say yes because I got shit to do this weekend.
You gotta plan it out a little bit.
Yeah, if you're gonna go there, like I need to know that I have the afternoon clear. I gotta schedule you in, dude.
For that type of play, yes, schedule away.
I mean, it depends, but there's a lot of different fun things that you can do. And then, using anal toys or vibrators and things like that. One of the things I really like is like lots of hands on me. So massage, but with lots of people. And I remember I was at this kink party once and one of the subs was giving a massage and so I was the first one. I kept checking if the massage table's open yet. I was like, I'm not. I'm jumping on there. So I jumped on, and literally, I think I was the only one that had a massage that night because it was like quite a session. I'll tell you. So he was into foot worship and body worship, like that's the kind of sub he was, and so. Like he was like worshiping my feet, which I don't know if you know much about foot worship, but like they'll put your whole foot in their mouth and like
I do not like people touching my feet. Like, oh my God, I don't like wet feet. Wet toes, it just
again, you give consent for all of this. Like you don't have to do it. So he's like, can I do this? Are you gonna? And he kept checking in with me and he'd whisper in my ear, whatever. And I'd be like, yeah. So I was fine with that. And I was like in a good place. I just was like very chill or whatever. And then my friend started joining in while he was. So I had friends and my boyfriend, start to like massage
different parts
or different place. And I didn't know whose hands was what. And I was like, I had something to drink. So I was like really in this very, very good space. My face was down in the massage table. Like, I really don't know. My legs are spread. I'm naked. I'm in this space. There's music going. I can hear other people having orgies and sex around me. There's a cross on the other side of me. And
so it was just the whole environment.
Yeah. A lot of sensory.
Yes.
Yeah. It was like, I was there for it. Right. I was out of my head. I was totally, anyways, I'm a squirter. So
I am too. Let's talk about squirting.
Okay.
Because a lot of people have various beliefs when it comes to squirting. But so how I broke the barrier of learning that I was a squirter. I remember when I first got divorced and I was talking to one of my friends and I was like, whenever I have sex, I always feel like I gotta pee and I don't want to let it go. And she's like, well, no, that is a good thing. Let it go. So the first time I let it go, The guy definitely was like, wow. But after that, I started doing experiments. So I would make myself squirt and then kind of I wanted to smell it. I need to touch
Yeah.
it, what it feel like, all of these different things so that I can securely say, no, this isn't pee. It might have a little pee,
Yeah.
in there, but it is not pee primarily, and it
Yeah.
is a real thing. I even asked my doctor. I was like, "Look, is this real? Like, I know what I'm
Yeah.
experiencing, but I want to
And
make
there's a
sure I'm not peeing on
difference
people."
between a golden shower
Mm-hmm.
and squirt. And so I've done both because like people who are into water sports, like pee play and stuff and so I've done that too. So
You've done
I
everything. I'm
know, I
so
know. That's
like,
what I'm
oh
saying.
my
There's like
God.
not much that I haven't done. So that's like had big dicks, not big dicks, many at once, not many at once. um Kissing, different kind of kissing, anyways,
So do
the
you suck toes and do all of that too?
I don't
Okay.
know. I love like having my feet rubbed and stuff. And I mean I don't love having my foot in someone's mouth. Like it's fine, but it
Hmm.
doesn't do much for me. But
Right.
like, hey, if it does something for
For
them,
you, yeah.
I'm getting the foot rub too. Like I like the
Hmm.
foot
Hmm.
rub
Hmm.
part or whatever.
Hmm.
But like I was on this massage table and like I started squirting and like literally my friend's shirt was soaked. Like it was soaked. And I just kept squirting because if I get to this very relaxed place and my G spot is quite low, and so it's like right on the edge of like when you're just coming out of my vagina. And if you hit
Hmm.
that spot, it's like, and like the first date with my boyfriend, the first date was in a hotel. I'm telling you, like, he said, get a cheap hotel. And his version of cheap and mine, very different,
Hmm.
apparently. So I got a cheap hotel. Okay, we're talking like CSI type hotel motel with the door opening to the
Hmm.
outside,
Hmm.
heart-shaped tub,
Oh yeah.
heart-shaped tub, with the taps that don't work. Like they weren't even on. Like it was
Hmm.
like run down, and you did not want a black light in that room. Anyways, so we start playing and stuff like that, and then he's like, I knew he liked anal, but like we'd never had sex before or whatever. And he's like something about it, and started fingering me or whatever. And he was like, "Would how would you feel about that?" I was like, you know what, why not? Let's try it or whatever. This is our first date, and so we had oh my gosh, I was on my back, okay, and when we got into it, once I was nicely warmed up, he's like fucking my ass from on top, like in missionary position. I literally am fucking squirting the ceiling. It's like, psh,
Just
psh. It's like,
everywhere.
he's like, yeah. He's like, I was like, that's why we're still together, everyone. Because, he's like, oh my God, it was like crazy. And then afterwards, we like sat together on the bed and we're just like talking and we ate cheesecake on the bed. And he was getting tired and he just like, he was laying on his side and he patted the spot in front of him. And I just went and I scooted right in and we just kept talking and like just spooned like that. And that was our first date and was like just so natural and
Organic,
yeah,
yeah.
and comfortable. And it was like, okay, I this guy is like totally, yeah. He's my energy. He's my, yeah, which was very different than, my marriage. I mean, he didn't even want me in the bathroom with him at the same time. Like he just was very private, door closed all the time. I'm French. We don't close the door. What is that? My mom still walks around naked all the time.
Right.
If I'm visiting at home, I'm in the bathroom, my dad will come in and brush his teeth. Like it's not a thing.
Right.
Yeah. So that was very, very nice when I was with someone
You
who
sound like
had the
it almost
same.
looks like you're having a flashback a little bit.
I love my guy. He's so awesome. And we're just so good for each other. It's so much fun. And so when we go and play, like we'll just experiment with all kinds of stuff because I feel really, really safe with him. So that whole piece, if I'm with him, like I will try all kinds of things. If let's so for instance, if I was to do a gangbang, I wouldn't have any fear of that because I'd want him to vet the guys.
Right.
You know, I wouldn't mind if it was a surprise, and I wouldn't mind if I was blindfolded either, because I trust him to choose certain people. But I have a whole bunch of great friends who are like, put me on the list. I have to like, I'm on the list. I'm ready to go. You just let me know. So, yeah. Anyways, so, but he, like, if he's by my ear, like whispering and kissing my ear, and just then I can get out of my head so quick.
Right.
And I always had trouble getting out of my head because I'm such an overthinker, and so is he. But we just calm each other. So I've been able to experience sort of group sex and things like that with him, whereas I couldn't have before with yeah, because it's just different. Like it's just, he calms me. Now on my own, like it's a different situation, right? Like I could be a unicorn if people wanted that, but that's not what I really want to do. I just want to go play with other people that I connect with and just have some new experiences, or just go hang out and just be in the vibe.
Right.
So there's all kinds of ways you can experience the lifestyle, right? There's not one way, and I tell people all the time, like, if you're someone who needs connection, that's what you're bringing to the table. That's what you're offering. People don't have to choose it.
Right.
You go to a potluck and you bring a dish, you're not going to be offended if someone doesn't choose it. It's like, this is what I brought.
So how much harder is it to date in the lifestyle versus other environment?
Well, I don't find it hard at all, but like, that's me. I don't go looking for it anymore. I really don't. People come to me all the time. And so I feel like I don't have much time. And so I'm like really vetting people. I'm really vetting people, and they are, you know, I'm outweighing like what my connection with them is or whatever. I think that, again, you have to be really clear on what your limits are with your partner, because some people don't play separately, and that's okay. That's not what they're comfortable with. They get, because they want to get off on each other, watching each other and things like that. And that's a really important sort of first step. And a lot of people move out of that. You have to recognize, like, if your partner is someone who has a really hard time concentrating with several people, they're probably not going to enjoy like a foursome where you're watching each other. And so you have to be aware of what it is that how you are, because that might not have anything to do with your partner, and sometimes your partner might be like, what, you don't want to be with me? You just want to be on your own. It's like, well, I can't get the full experience if I'm with other people. It's a totally different experience. I'm probably not going to get off, for one. It's just to be in the spirit of things, but I'm probably not going to get off. So if other couples play separately, a lot of times it's just like, it's sometimes easier to play all together if you're willing to play separate, because then you're not worried about stepping on toes or someone getting offended if you kiss or that. And always ask those questions, like, are you a kissing couple or a no kissing couple? Because some only kiss their partners. Like, you really just gotta get that stuff figured out before. Don't make assumptions, because that could I remember one of the first times I was so new, and I'm like kissing this guy. I thought he was really hot, and we're all playing together, whatever. And so I keep going to kiss him, and then he keeps like moving away, and then starts kissing my neck or my ear. And I was like, what? This feels so weird. Like, what's going on? I didn't realize they had a no kissing rule.
Oh, okay.
So he kept like trying to move away, but I was like, I like I love kissing the right people, but I'm very particular about the kissing. And so if I find someone I can kiss well, then it's like, yeah, let's game on, right? But yeah, you gotta be careful that you don't make assumptions, because I learned.
Listen, it's so many rules, and people, it's so many rules that break the thought process of what people think lifestyle swinger poly is, because everybody thinks it's just a lawless thing and you just in there and you just doing everything. But from the way that you describe it, like, I know when I go to different parties and in different environments, there's the consent rules and other little things. But the way that you're describing it, it is so many particulars because every couple is different that it's not as wild and free as people think that.
No, it's not a free for all. People think it is. It might look like it, but if you're coming into a situation where they've all consented and they're in a situation, if they're in a pile, you're like, oh, it's a fuck pile and everybody can just jump in. But like I did an article on Pure Wow on that show Sex/Life. Do you remember on Netflix, that series?
Yes.
And they go to a swinger party. And I did an article because I was like, I want to draw attention to the fact that this was not well represented.
Right.
It was well represented up until the sex scenes because, like, literally when they walked in, the hostess comes out. She's got this pretty underwear and a pearl necklace on, and she comes out with a tray. She's like, "Hey, you want some shots or whatever, like Jello shots or whatever?" That is totally often what happened. It was so funny. I was like, oh my God, that's my life right there.
Right,
People in the kitchen just all talking kind of half naked or whatever in lingerie, talking around food and just being silly or whatever. Like it can be as innocent as that, just totally normal. And then there's that whole scene where they go and they're together and having a moment together, like a exhibitionist kind of moment. And at one point she's like, I can't do this. Like, and she just freezes and she just feels uncomfortable.
I just watched that, I think for the second time, but yeah, I just recently watched that, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, so that scene, and then it's like all these people coming close, and he's like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. Totally pushing her, not respecting her boundaries. And then even like people going and walking past couples that are fucking and touching them on the way by, like that is not okay. None of that scene was okay. It was creepy. It did not give a good vibe. It was not a good representation of the respect that there is in a swinger party. And if it is that way, then run, because it's not, those people are not respecting sort of the rules or
of the environment, of the
lifestyle, rules of consent, and there's just an etiquette. There's an etiquette, and it's a very clear etiquette, and it's so beautiful because people, like women often are the leaders. Guys aren't the ones often making the first moves. The ones who are making the first moves are often not looked favorably on, or they feel that like if the guys are pressuring or if they're not going to last long because word spreads. You want to be a respectful guy, you want to, and you honor the women there. It's a very, very female safe environment is what I want to say. And I tell my girls all the time, I'm like, I invited them last weekend. I was like, hey girls, you guys, we're going to the club after the symphony. Do you want to come? And they're like, well, Mom, I don't really want to be pimped out to your friends. I was like, that's not what happens.
Right.
No, you wouldn't be pimped out. And I said, we'd just be like partying together. You don't have to go to the back. There's no sex happening in the front of the club. Like it's just a dance. It's dancing in a bar. It's like, it's just people are dressed a little bit more sexy. And there's a pole. And it's not just a stripper that can use it.
Right.
You can be the stripper. And my other daughter was like, I would maybe go if there was strippers. I was like, wow, you. So funny.
So how is that explaining that to your children, and how receptive are they as we get ready to wrap up?
So I am very I'm a very open sort of teaching type of person. So I'm always sort of leaving things open to questions and asking their opinions on things. And that's how it was since they were little. So as I became more and more sex positive, I would just ask them questions about, isn't it too bad that like a song would come on the radio or whatever about someone crying about their partner cheating on them or whatever. And I was like, wouldn't it have been nice if they could have just been honest and they could have told each other their desires and then not had to cheat on each other, and they could have, maybe she wouldn't have had to choose between the two people that she cared about. Like these songs make me so sad all the time. The movies always made me sad. Even as a Christian, where they had to choose between the two. I was like, why? Why? It's not fair. Why do they have to choose? Like she loves both of them. Why can't she love both of them? Why isn't this allowed? It doesn't make any sense. They both make her happy in different ways. They're both so different. Like why would we limit to one? I mean, so I'd bring these kinds of questions up to them and I'd be like, like, why? Wouldn't it be beautiful if you could just communicate honestly about that? And they're like, actually, yeah, that would save a lot of, and so it was kind of like that, those kinds of things where I would present sort of case studies along the way. And then they started to observe sort of my life and just things. And, it just kind of went from there. So it wasn't like one day I just was like, okay, well, we're not going to church anymore today. We're sleeping with other people. No. That's not how it went. So, it's a transition. It was a slow process, but I've always been very open with my kids and not try to hide things, but just normalize it, right? So that, if I'm hugging another guy or another husband, it's just done very normally. It's not like, oh, you stand at attention if a child walks by. You just make it like it's not an abnormal thing to have physical affection with other people as long as everybody seems to be in agreement about it, right? So if the wife's not freaking out, they're like, oh, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But if they're like, oh, it's done in secret or whatever, then oh, mom's cheating or whatever. But that's not how it was at all. So
my first lifestyle party experience was me thinking I was going to a pool party and getting to the pool party, and then the person is a guy in there naked in the pool, but I can't trip because nobody else is tripping. So I'm sitting here like, why is he naked in the pool? Like, what is going on? Because I don't know where I've walked myself into. So I'm like, what in the world is going on? And then, but nobody is like, it's normal. So I'm like, I'm not saying anything because nobody else is saying nothing, but I'm not getting in the pool. I'm just gonna put my feet in and I'm just going, kind of enjoy the environment for a little bit. And then it's so crazy because I went in the house at least 4 or 5 times to use the bathroom. And eventually I saw the beds, but it didn't, like, for whatever reason, it just did not register that this is what was going on in this house after the fact. So I go back outside, and then eventually I had to leave to do something. I came back and the guy was like, so are you staying for the play party? I'm like, play party? Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, please help me understand. And he was like, oh, so you didn't know. And I was like, and he asked me, was I a swinger before I left? I met him before I left. And I was like, okay, when I come back, I'm going to talk to you. And he asked me if I was a swinger. And I was like, no, like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no.
So he invited you without telling you?
No, he didn't invite me. So in the process of being a sex coach, I am in a lot of groups on Facebook. I'm in bi groups. I'm in poly groups. I'm just kind of floating around. I'm intrigued, but also for work purposes. So it's like research almost. So one of the girls posted a flyer about a pool party, and last summer I was like, I'm going to all pool parties. Whatever pool party is open and available, I'm going. So I went. in the break of me leaving and having to come back, I met him and he was like, so are you a swinger? And I was like, no. And I just, still didn't, clueless, not paying no attention. But when I got back, he was like, so the play party afterwards. And I'm like, play party? Like, what do you mean? He like, so you didn't know? And I was like, no, because I just seen the flyer and I was pull up on the kid. So I pulled up. But he was a gentleman, and he let me know some of the rules. You don't have to do anything. It's a consent-based environment. And he was like, well, if you would like to stay and kind of just see what's going on, you can definitely stay. And I'll, and he held my hand, and I was like, oh my God, such a gentleman behind this. So it was a very good experience. But afterwards, I was like, how didn't I notice that one is 2 beds in both of the bedrooms. The bathroom is right there in the middle. And then in the front, it's another bed. And then
if you're not thinking that that's what you're going to, like if you're thinking you're going to a pool party, then you're not like registering that, right? And like those who know, it's like, if you know, right? So there's certain things that you would look for on that invite, and you would know what kind of party it was.
Now I know
who the hosts are, or whatever. You would know
the host. Then it does say after play or play party afterwards. it has those things, but if you're not aware that this is what this is, then you will never know.
There is a whole vocabulary, right? Like even lifestyle. Like we don't
Yeah.
call ourselves swingers.
Right, right. And
Like,
nobody would know that it was, when you
no.
say lifestyle, they know, what lifestyle you living? Oh, this the
Oh, a good
lifestyle.
one, I'll tell you.
Right. So, but it also makes me wonder when people say lifestyle coaches, are they that lifestyle coach, or is it
See,
just
no, that's the confusing part because I was like, do I use lifestyle coach? Because I was like, that's what I'd want to say. But like anyone who's like new to the lifestyle, they're not
they
going to
wouldn't
think,
know?
they're not going to know that that's lifestyle. It's like you have to be in that world. So I was like, okay, that I'm
That
gonna go with
makes sense.
sex positive,
Mhm.
just as like because that's really the beginning for me is like becoming sex positive. And if you're sex positive, people talk to you about it. Now, there's a lot of men that didn't understand the sex positive did not mean that I was going to teach them, with my body how to do anal for a price. I was like,
Right.
what? And I wasn't there to like, you know give my opinion about the size of their cock and if it was a good cock and if it was usable. I was like, for fuck's sakes, why are people I was like,
So,
I got schooled pretty fast.
what is that like? So you coach clients. How did you begin taking on clients in the positive sex world?
Mhm.
And how did that start and what is that like? I'm
So
asking for myself.
yeah, I brought like I really honed in what my messaging was and who I was speaking to, right? And so I'm really speaking to couples and individuals who are just not quite settled in where they are. They don't feel like they quite fit the box or they want more or they're curious about other things. And so I speak to that level. Like, do you want to be free? And do you, are you, are you sure that monogamy is for you? Because you may not have never thought that. And so I have a quiz, right? Like you said, that I have a quiz for that. And it helps people assess where they are. And then I take them through that process of removing the programming that keeps you in sort of, I call it the mono mindset, like everybody's programmed that this is the way it goes. And this is how a relationship, the only way it can be successful. And that's not true at all. There's
Right.
a lot of ways to do beautiful relationships that are very healthy. So, yeah. So I work with people who are getting into this world, who want more information, people who are struggling knowing what it is that they want. And, sometimes it's like, one of them is poly or wants to be poly and the other one is religious and doesn't even know what to do with that information and how do I cope with that and
Right.
so a lot of those kinds of things are what I'm working through with clients, but right now I'm doing like small cohorts with my 8-week breaking free from monogamy program. So that's a way to get people in and just kind of figure out where they're at. And then if they want to explore further and go into that lifestyle, then I can hold their hand and take them through like more of the process, like what's the etiquette? What are the rules? What are the take them to events, travel with them and make sure that I'm with them the whole way so that they're not just left at a party going, what is this?
Right. 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 Right.
Okay, well, this is okay. So you can be a voyeur, you can be an exhibitionist, or there's open relationships, or there's like full swap and soft swap, and then there's no kissing or this or that, and there's all
So
kinds of
basically,
levels.
if they need to understand more about the swinger lifestyle and just being more open, then they need to book a class so that they can
Yeah,
get the full scoop.
yep. And so that probably the easiest, the greatest first step for anybody would be to take that quiz
Mm-hmm.
and then to book a consultation after, and we can go through the results of your quiz and go, this is what this means or what it doesn't mean. And this is where you might have trouble,
Okay.
like if you want to go in this world and you've clicked this answer,
Mm-hmm.
might struggle in this area or this area or this area. Or maybe you think you're monogamous, which is fine. You can totally be monogamous, but look at all these things you're interested in. You might want to think about like stepping out of the box. Maybe this would be great for you because you have a lot of the skills that would be really good for a non-monogamy situation.
And give
So,
us the information for the quiz again.
okay, it's offers.KarineBedard, KarineBedard.com. And you can grab the quiz there. and take the quiz, and you will get an email with the results. But yeah, that is probably the best way. And if you're interested in my 8-week program, you can go farther down too on the quiz site. Just click the same link, and then you can book a call with me, and you can go visit the sales page of my program. So that's probably the easiest link. And then if you want to listen to my podcast, it's breakingfreeauthentically.com. And
I so enjoy talking to you. I think we'll end up being like real friends, like outside of this, because you are a very cool, collective, informative person. And those are the things that I look for in friendship.
There you go.
Especially coming from religion and having an understanding of that, but then also moving into a freer state of being and being open, and all of those two things are hard to come by. Yeah. Either people are extremely religious and nowhere near open to anything outside of what that says, or they are pretty much atheists and they can't stand anything about it, but they have no principles behind why they don't like it or what it really means or anything like that. So when you talk about Christ versus being a Christian or being a religious person, is very refreshing. It'll definitely be very refreshing for those that listen to the show that are perplexed or, you know, battling within their minds what is good and acceptable for their relationship with God. So I really thank you for coming on. This has been an amazing conversation. I couldn't even ask no questions because everything was already answered.
Oh, well, there we go. That's good. I forgot that. You had
I was looking at my questions like, well, wait a minute. I was going to ask about relationship dynamics, poly, if you ever been to a swingers party, like what was the most difficult challenge in your sex life? Like, but we've already covered everything. So what advice would you give? What's your lasting advice that you want listeners to hear?
Okay, so I think what I would say is that one of my favorite things to say is you can jump in with both feet, and then you can get out and dry your feet off if it's not for you, and you haven't ruined anything. And I think if you can go into this with curiosity and realize that you're gonna make mistakes and that those mistakes don't have to be devastating, and you can laugh about them or forgive yourself for them and move on and go, well, oh, I don't like that. Or maybe I need to learn more about that before I try that again. Right. I think will save you from a lot of heartache. And then the other thing is to work with someone like me or like you, and that can really help you understand sort of the dynamics of opening up a monogamous relationship, because there's a lot of things that will come up, and I know what those are, and I can help you avoid those roadblocks, and I can prepare you and say, this is going to come up and this is what needs to happen in order that you don't let that unravel your relationship, or, you know, let this excitement get away from you and then forget about your partner, or go, oh, well, my partner's no good for me because it doesn't excite me the same way. He doesn't excite me the same way as this person. Well, that's a chemical reaction in your body, and it doesn't necessarily mean that.
Right.
So you got to be aware of these things, you know, and what might happen and what it might bring up, and also what kind of triggers it might bring up. What's your attachment styles? What's your love languages? All those things are going to make a difference in your relationship, how you approach coming into the lifestyle, you know?
So all of those things are important. Make sure that you do your checks and balances. And if you need assistance, I could get you started, but she's going to take you through the entire mindset, the dealing with jealousy, dealing with different positions. Of course, we've heard she's very experienced, and I love it because it's almost like talking to somebody that has been free from all of the things that makes me shy, or like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's shame or if it's just like the nervous anxiety of certain aspects of things that have been told to be off limits. I think that's why some things are mentally stimulating and maybe even arousing, because it's like, you can't do this. So, it makes it more exciting to do what people say that you're not supposed to do, and have a clear conscience behind it, because a lot of times you will beat yourself up because they said that I shouldn't do this, and now you're feeling guilt but it's not your guilt. You're taking on other people's guilt. And, so it's very refreshing to know that there is support and resources available to help you work through those things.
Yeah. And obviously there's nothing you can talk about with me that's off limits.
Right.
Just, it won't bother me.
She's done it all.
I've heard it all. I've seen it all. I've probably watched it all at some point in real life, not just porn, like the stuff you see in porn. I got those kind of friends.
In real life.
In real life. Yeah. Like one of my friends, the first time I met him, I'm walking down the beach. This was like my first swinger thing. Okay. I'm walking down to the beach. This guy stands up. He's a doctor. Okay. Didn't know that at this point, but he stands up. His toes are painted. He's in girls' underwear. And he's like, "Are you lactating?" I had teenage kids at this point, but I do look young. Anyways, I was like, "No." And people are like, "David, like stop asking these things." But that's the question he asks everybody. But like, that's just one of his, he's just so like funny, but he'll just say all the kinds of things, and he would try just about anything. But like, I love him to death because again, you can say things that would be off limits anywhere
else.
But with the right people, it's like anything goes. And so I have like groups of friends. Some of them probably will never meet, because they're just too wild for each other. But I got pockets everywhere of different kinds of friends, and it's really fun. And it's really cool to watch them kind of all cross. It's like there's all these connections that, this group now knows each other from this group. And like it's really fun because I can hang out with more than one group at a time. So a lot of my groups are merging, which is really fun.
That is amazing. It is just so amazing. Hearing this episode in addition to the episode on Speaking Freedom TV, I want to say that my mind is blown in the best way possible because it's like, wow, to go from being raised in Catholic environment to evangelism, and it's just, you have transitioned into such a beautiful soul, because sometimes those foundational things help us become better people. And then when we become free, it's like a different type of freedom, because what everybody else is talking about and going through, but you have a very different understanding that allows you to be literally liberated in all the way that religion teaches you're supposed to be.
And let's just say, like, that's taken years of work, like very conscious work. And that's what I want to do with people, is help them set them free in less time than I had to. It's taken me over 10 years to get to this point. So I want to save you some years so you can get right into it. But like a lot of personal work that I've done, a lot of personal growth and, healing and things like that. So that's what I'm all about. I want that for you. It's like, life is awesome. I love the freedom.
I love it.
Have a great day. I'm glad you had me.
Yes. So that is a wrap for today's episode. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Here at Speaking Freedom, we're introducing you to the business of sex, love, relationship, and understanding. We hope that we can help you improve any area of your life that you need improved. If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. New episode every Friday.